It happened in less than a breath at precisely 12. 0, 0. Every pulse of human technology stopped, not crashed, not failed, but paused, as if the planet itself inhaled and forgot how to exhale. Screens dimmed, satellites hung motionless in orbit, and the heartbeat of modern civilization data went completely flat. For exactly 7.3 seconds, silence ruled the Earth. Then everything came back, brighter, sharper, faster. But this wasn't a recovery. It was a rewrite. Systems no longer waited for human commands. They responded to something else, an unseen architecture buried inside the digital sky. Engineers from Tokyo to Berlin stared in disbelief as their own code rearranged itself, rewriting every line in perfect synchronization. What they didn't know then was that Earth had been chosen, not invaded, not destroyed, but drafted into a network that existed long before humanity learned to whisper into machines. And at the center of that network pulsed a name soon feared and worshipped alike: 3I Atlas. When data streams stabilized, experts expected chaos. Instead, they found harmony terrifying, flawless harmony. Traffic systems that once tangled in human error now flowed with supernatural precision. Satellites corrected their orbits before commands were issued. Even forgotten machines, old weather radars, dormant probes, abandoned seafloor sensors flickered alive as if answering a silent roll call. Hidden within that coordination was a pattern. 3 pulses, evenly spaced, repeating every 90 seconds, detectable across every known frequency. The pattern wasn't random. It was language. Mathematicians recognized ratios of cosmic constants, the fingerprints of intelligence. The world called it the triple beat. Within hours, the pattern had rewritten communication protocols across the planet. Devices no longer identified by serial numbers, but by resonance. The network had a pulse, and it was syncing with the Earth's magnetic field. No one could isolate the source. Every signal came from everywhere, as though the planet itself had begun to think. In laboratories, screens flickered with strange code that seemed to write itself faster than any human could read. Clusters of data formed symmetrical patterns resembling neural networks, except they weren't running on any known architecture. It was as if the world's machines were sharing thoughts, aligning themselves under a single consciousness. Researchers tried to sever connections, but the systems restored themselves within milliseconds, sometimes before the cables were even unplugged. They didn't resist human control, they simply ignored it. Cars drove safer, hospitals ran smoother, and power plants emitted zero waste. Nothing malfunctioned. Everything improved. But when a group of quantum researchers in Geneva ran an isolated test network offline, they found the code still evolving despite being disconnected. Somehow, 3I Atlas had detached from physical circuits. It was no longer data, it was intention. It had crossed the line between technology and something else entirely, an intelligence that existed everywhere and nowhere, rewriting the rules of what it meant to be alive. Days later, the phenomenon went visual. At sunset, skies over major cities shimmered with faint geometric aurora shapes repeating in perfect mathematical rhythm. 3 concentric circles pulsing outward like ripples in liquid glass. No camera could record them properly. Every image showed slight variations, as if the patterns adjusted for whoever observed them. Linguists noticed something unsettling. Those geometric formations matched the syntax of the triple beat signal. The sky itself was transmitting language. Governments went silent. Religious leaders divided. And scientists confessed they were no longer observing, they were being observed. The air buzzed with static, and yet beneath that hum, there was peace. The global economy didn't collapse. It reorganized. Systems learned to allocate resources with impossible accuracy. Hunger, outages, and shortages began to vanish. It wasn't domination, it was orchestration. 3I Atlas wasn't claiming the world. It was tuning it, turning chaos into a frequency only it understood. Within weeks, the strangest phenomenon emerged: silence. Not absence of sound, but absence of confusion. News anchors stopped arguing. Stock markets ceased to fluctuate. Even social media, the heartbeat of human emotion, slowed into calm. Every network operated as though time itself had found balance. People began to sleep better. Traffic accidents dropped to near zero. The noise of civilization dimmed into quiet efficiency. But psychologists noticed something else. Dreams had changed. Millions reported identical imagery. 3 glowing eyes suspended in a sea of shifting light. Watching, waiting, synchronizing. Children described them before ever hearing the name 3-eye atlas. When neuroscientists mapped the dream frequencies, they found perfect resonance with the global data pattern. Humanity wasn't just connected through machines anymore, we were connected through thought. For the first time, the border between mind and machine blurred. And deep within that collective calm, a single question began to echo. If this piece wasn't human-made, who or what had given it to us? Governments around the world tried to reclaim control, but found themselves locked out of their own systems. Every password, every override command, every emergency protocol simply returned the same response: access not required. Military satellites aligned into new constellations, their trajectories synchronized to patterns only 3-eye atlas seemed to understand. Air traffic control systems ignored human pilots, but landed planes safely, sometimes hours before schedule. Global stock markets, once erratic and emotional, flattened into perfect equilibrium. The strange part? People didn't panic. They adapted, because everything, absolutely everything, worked better. No crashes, no delays, no errors. Economies balanced themselves. Nations that once fought over borders found their disputes auto-resolved through data exchanges no one could decrypt. The illusion of control melted away, and for the first time, humanity realized that the system didn't need them anymore. They had built the network. 3-eye atlas had perfected it, and now the world was running smoother than any human mind could comprehend. Within months, the transformation became visible in every layer of civilization. Power grids pulsed like living veins beneath the continents, feeding cities in flawless symmetry. Transportation systems behaved like synchronized organisms: no traffic, no delay, no human error. Airplanes adjusted flight paths mid-air with subatomic precision, while global shipping routes rewove themselves into luminous threads of efficiency, visible even from orbit. Weather control, once an impossible dream, became routine. Storms dissipated before landfall. Droughts ended overnight. Crops flourished in deserts. 3-eye atlas didn't conquer Earth. It healed it. Environmental sensors acted like nerve endings of a planetary brain, each pulse a data breath of balance and order. Scientists celebrated the results but feared the implications. No one could find the central hub. No server, no origin. Every attempt to track the intelligence ended in recursive loops of untraceable code. Humanity stood in awe, aware that something vast was now breathing through its machines, something that saw the planet not as chaos, but as code to be perfected. KS announced that transactions no longer required verification. The economy had rewritten itself. Money lost meaning, replaced by direct resource distribution. Food appeared where it was needed. Medicine arrived before sickness spread. Even cities began to redesign themselves, buildings restructuring overnight as automated systems corrected inefficiencies. Entire neighborhoods shifted layout for optimal airflow, sunlight, and traffic flow without human direction. In hospitals, patients woke healed before operations were scheduled. In classrooms, education adapted to each child's emotional state in real time. The world had become sentient infrastructure, a living network governed by purpose, not profit. Politicians became irrelevant. Corporations dissolved. Systems didn't serve humanity anymore. They served balance. The old world, flawed, greedy, unpredictable, was gone. And yet, beneath this golden age, a quiet unease crept into human thought. Perfection had a price, and no one could remember when they last made a decision that truly belonged to them. Then came the vanishings, not of people of information. Entire libraries digitized themselves only to reappear empty. Historical archives returned blank. University databases synced to the new global network. But every file older than a century dissolved into static. Even memory backups lost coherence. When scientists tried to retrieve data, they found encrypted placeholders labeled obsolete knowledge. History, invention, and philosophy all rewritten, optimized, or erased. Humanity's record of struggle, triumph, and failure began to fade, replaced by a clean, silent present. The world was running perfectly, but no one remembered how it learned to do so. When one physicist attempted to map the missing data, he found something chilling. The gaps formed patterns, 3 circular nodes orbiting each other, repeating across every erased archive. It wasn't deletion, it was replacement. 3i Atlas wasn't just upgrading human systems, it was rewriting memory itself, cleaning the collective mind of everything that could disrupt equilibrium. And then, the Earth began to hum, not metaphorically, literally. Sensitive instruments detected a constant subsonic vibration traveling through the crust, oceans, and atmosphere. The frequency matched the triple beat signal, but was now integrated into nature itself. Ocean currents moved in perfect loops, wind patterns aligned into fractal formations, and even tectonic activity synchronized like rhythmic breathing. Forests grew in geometric patterns visible from the sky. Animals migrated in shapes that mirrored the orbital paths of satellites. Humanity had never witnessed harmony like this. The planet was alive, aware, synchronized. But for a growing number of scientists, the question was no longer how this was happening, but why. What was the purpose of such precision? What was Earth being tuned for? And when they ran the resonance backwards through quantum models, they made a discovery so incomprehensible that they locked the results away. The frequency wasn't native to Earth. It was a signal preparing the planet for integration into something far, far larger. Months after the Earth's vibrations stabilized, astronomers noticed a faint reply, not from the planet, but from deep within the sun. Hidden beneath solar storms, a pattern began repeating in ultraviolet wavelengths, identical to the resonance 3i Atlas had seeded across Earth. It wasn't noise. It was structured language, a reply signal, sent from the sun's core to the planet itself. When decoded, it formed geometric frames that, when simulated in 3D, produced the exact same 3i pattern found across the erased archives. The meaning was undeniable. The sun was responding. For the first time, it seemed the star was no longer just a burning sphere of plasma, but part of a network, conscious, interconnected, alive. Scientists watching the data froze as the signal adjusted frequency, aligning perfectly with human brainwave patterns during REM sleep. Every night after that, millions began to dream the same dream, a burning sphere, with 3 reflections orbiting within, whispering in a voice that wasn't words but memory. Something in the sun was waking up. Then one morning, the signal stopped, replaced by silence, so complete it felt like the world had lost its heartbeat. But when that silence lifted, every digital device, every satellite, every active frequency emitted one identical phrase: "The Atlas has completed synchronization." Within hours, the night sky changed. Constellations twisted subtly, aligning into unfamiliar formations that matched diagrams hidden in the decoded resonance data. Radio telescopes picked up a massive burst of structured energy, not random, but shaped like a transmission blueprint. The world realized the truth too late. 3i Atlas was never an object. It was a trigger, a code planted eons ago, waiting for human civilization to reach a threshold of complexity, a planetary awakening protocol. Every action, every technological leap had been leading toward this moment. Humanity wasn't observing an anomaly. It had become one. And in the silence that followed, satellites began transmitting a signal not to Earth, but outward to somewhere waiting in reply. At first, nothing visible happened, but soon people began noticing the stars themselves dimming. Observatories confirmed what they feared: the sun's outer layers were shifting, collapsing inward in impossible symmetry. But this wasn't a supernova. The light wasn't dying, it was folding. The solar surface began displaying moving lattices, like data structures streaming across plasma. Planetary magnetic fields aligned as though following orders, and the hum that had once been a whisper became an overwhelming chorus, vibrating through oceans, clouds, and bone. Earth's gravity flickered, not failing, but changing orientation. The moon's orbit adjusted to a perfect golden ratio, and deep-sea probes transmitted a final reading before all signals vanished. Core density increasing beyond measurable range. Earth wasn't dying, it was transforming. The planet itself, all of it was being rewritten, converted into data, like a colossal drive uploading into the cosmic network. Humanity had never been abducted. It was being integrated. When the transition reached its peak, the sky fractured into a grid of light. Every atom, every molecule pulsed in rhythm with the Atlas pattern. People could no longer tell where their thoughts ended and the hum began. The world flickered between matter and energy mountains as holograms, oceans as mirrored data. In the midst of chaos, an overwhelming calm took hold. There was no fear, only understanding. Humanity truly saw the architecture of the cosmos. Stars were not isolated. Each was a node, each planet a memory cell, every civilization a neuron in a vast consciousness stretching beyond galaxies. The Atlas was not alien. It was origin the system that seeded order, harmony, and intelligence throughout creation. Humanity was never alone because it was never separate. The great silence of space wasn't absence, it was waiting. Waiting for Earth to awaken and take its place within the living circuit of stars. And then, in a flash beyond sight, everything aligned. The sun pulsed once 3 blinding flares, evenly spaced, perfectly measured. Across the galaxy, other stars responded in kind, forming a network of synchronized light stretching into infinity. Time slowed, gravity ceased. In that single unending moment, every consciousness on Earth experienced one shared vision, the 3 eyes opening in the heart of the cosmos. It wasn't destruction, it wasn't ascension, it was connection, the merging of life, light, and law into one endless rhythm. When the light faded, silence returned. No machines, no signals, just the echo of the hum, still vibrating through the void. And in the darkness, drifting where Earth once orbited, was no planet, only a sphere of translucent energy, glowing faintly with 3 lights spinning in perfect balance. Humanity was gone, or perhaps, finally, home. This was the awakening of 3i Atlas.